Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out with the latest edition of FLEXpectations, our weekly preview show that comes out every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. to look ahead to the weekend's boxing action. Quick bit of housekeeping. Last week, because for some strange reason I got it into my head that the World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight semi-finals were last weekend, I've already previewed Andrew Tabiti against Junior Dorticos and Maris Bridis against Krzysztof Glowacki in the semi-finals. So if you want to know what I think of that and who's going to win and so on, you'll have to watch last week's FLEXpectations, I'm afraid. Because this one's going to be focused on the two big British, and by British I don't mean necessarily on British soil, fights this weekend. One of which sees Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, make his Las Vegas debut. He's fought in America twice before, but never in Sin City. And he's going up against unbeaten, untested German Tom Schwarz, who is around the same height as Fury, maybe a couple of inches shorter. I think he's 6'5" and Fury's 6'9", so maybe more than a couple of inches shorter. I'll correct myself there. But probably not equals Fury in any other department. Fury is obviously fast, he's got great footwork, quick on his feet. Just a very, very good all-round, awkward fighter, nightmare to fight. And Schwarz, because he's quite fresh and he hasn't fought a varied level of opposition, is going to struggle a bit with Fury's style, I believe. Not only that, but when we have seen Schwarz step up against Shanad Gashi, who later on lost to Derek Chisora, of course, and Carlos Takam, he really struggled in that fight. He looked to be losing before, inexplicably, Gashi headbutted his opponent 2 or 3 times and got disqualified. But it looked like Schwarz could have lost his unbeaten record then. So I wouldn't expect much value in that betting-wise. And although a big upset happened last weekend, as we saw with Anthony Joshua losing to Andy Ruiz, there's no way Schwarz has proven to be anywhere near as good as Ruiz. Ruiz had at least been in with Joseph Parker and given him a really hard fight and beaten some fringe contenders. None of that for Schwarz. And Fury's just, his style isn't combative. He's someone that fights on the back foot quite a lot. He doesn't engage too much. So he won't leave himself open, at least in theory. I could end up with egg on my face, of course. But he won't leave himself open in theory to the sort of shots that discombobulated Joshua in the 3rd round. And I apologise for discombobulated. I did sound a bit like Ron McIntosh just then. I won't make a habit of it, I promise. But on to the next stanza of this preview. Leeds show. Josh Warrington, hometown hero, makes the mandatory defence of his IBF featherweight title against Kid Galahad, the awkward but dangerous mandatory challenger from the Ingle Gym in Sheffield. It's been a great story watching Josh Warrington upset the odds in consecutive fights. First against Lee Selby to win the title and then to retain it against Carl Frampton. It's hard to back against him after those 2 performances. Kid Galahad, though, is accurate, he's awkward, he's got that Ingle style, long limbs and interesting unorthodox angles. And he's got the sort of style that could really cause problems for Warrington. But the vice versa is true as well. Warrington's an intelligent pressure fighter, he'll push the pace and he'll cut the ring off on Galahad, who likes to have a bit of space to work. So they're both in essence a nightmare for each other. Could get rough in there, could see head clashes, cuts, elbows, stepping on each other's feet, that kind of thing, especially if Galahad switches stance as he's prone to do. Hard to pick a winner. I'd probably just about go with Warrington to get the job done in a close points decision. But it wouldn't shock me if Galahad were to get it done. And I think he's around 2-1 overall, 4-1 to win on points, which is the most likely method of victory. I'd say those odds are a bit too wide. So if you fancy Galahad, get down the bookies. Great undercard in Leeds as well. Super featherweight Zelfa Barrett, who was upset by Ronnie Clark, kind of on the comeback trail from that, against Leon Woodstock, who obviously hasn't had the best of luck in his last couple either. Real crossroads clash there. Be really interesting to see who comes through it. Similarly, Jason Welborn stepping down from world level against Jarrett Hurd, where he gave a decent account of himself before getting stopped in round 4. Going up against James Metcalf, great prospect, unbeaten, but hasn't really kicked on in the way we thought he would in the last year or so. So that's a really intriguing one. And again, Welborn's odds are probably a bit wider than they should be, so have a look at that. And if it's still on, the heavyweight clash between Alex Dickinson and very, very dangerous journeyman Kamil Sokolovsky, who nearly beat Lucas Brown, of course, before Dave Allen did. That's definitely one to watch as well. So watch the Leeds show, watch the Vegas show, but before you do, comment below, let us know what you think's the standout fight of the weekend, which underdog, if any, you expect to upset the odds, and let us know if you agree with my predictions or not. We'll be back next week for the next FLEXpectations, 4:30 p.m. We'll be looking ahead to a host of fights then. But if you can't wait until then to see my ugly mug, we'll be back Monday, 4:30 p.m. for Reflections, where we'll be looking back on the Las Vegas show, Leeds, and indeed Riga, where the World Boxing Super Series semi-finals are being held. We'll see you soon, and thanks for your time.